Hello and welcome to another episode of the Investing with IBD podcast. It's Justin Nielsen here, and we are coming to you live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, as we typically do on a Wednesday. We had a holiday over the weekend, and we're just getting back into things. It's February 18th, 2026, and joining me today is Scott St. Clair. Scott, we've known each other for about a decade now, and apparently we live so close together, but different weather patterns. Scott, of course, is our senior product premium product manager, and one of the things that we're going to cover right now is a big project that you've been working on a lot is MarketSurge and the updates. How has that been going?
Well, it's been going and it's still
Yes.
going. It's in beta because it's not, fully functional yet, but
Mhm.
slowly but surely we hope to have it fairly soon in full production.
Yeah, and for those that aren't familiar with our Market Surge product, that's what we use basically every week here on the podcast when we're looking at charts and everything. A few of the things that are, again, it might not look like much is different, but the infrastructure is really completely changed, right?
Yeah, the back end is totally new.
Hmm.
The infrastructure, I guess, for lack of a better word, is different than the legacy version. So it was a total revamp. We had to build it from scratch, and
Hmm.
it's been going on a lot longer than probably people were aware. It's been
Right.
a project in motion for a number of years, actually.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see again with this rollout, now that we've been bought by Dow Jones, and we're a member of News Corp, a lot of folks are talking about this kind of being what is used by some of the broader companies. So it's going to be interesting to see how this rolls out. So let's get right into it. So just so people know, we're going to spend a little bit of time on some of the functionality changes and things like that Market Surge is rolling out. And again, right now this is available in beta. It you can still do the legacy version because again, sometimes during the market trading day, you really don't want to deal with bugs. Uh, so that's completely understandable. So you do have the option to go to the legacy version as we transition between them. But we are also going to talk about the market because Scott and I were talking just earlier how it's been again just a really tough market. It felt like a little bit of whack-a-mole. Like every time you have something that looks like it's breaking out to new highs, you might get 2, 3 days out of it, and then boom, it gets whacked right back down. So Scott is going to cover his ideas of the current market, how he's handling things, a little bit on international, and some of the stocks that he's looking at setting up. But Scott, first, let's go ahead and get right into. I'm going to have you share. Normally, I'm the one that's
Okay.
doing the sharing, but because Scott and I have worked so long together, I'm going to make him do it because he's the senior product premium product manager.
I'm gonna
uh,
hope that this is live. I think this is my maybe fifth or sixth podcast, but this might be my first live one. So
oh yeah,
um,
that's true.
let's
Okay,
see if
yeah.
I mess this up. Um, it'll take you off, take me off your go-to list, which
You're,
would be
you're, you're
nice.
my guest list.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
less thing I got to do.
blacklisted.
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
So you should see my chart. I've got a chart of ESCO Technologies up,
hmm. Yeah,
and
I
it
can see it,
okay, and this is the
and it
beta
looks
version.
basically the same. I mean, you have your moving average lines, your relative strength line, and index line. It looks like there's, the data down below. Looks like maybe you get a little bit more data down below, but a lot of this seems very, very familiar.
Well, I'll be honest with you, that was my biggest reservation with the new charts is that they had to look like the old charts.
Yeah.
Um, and not only for myself, but for a lot of our clients, the look and feel of our charts is our bread and butter. It's one of the people things that people just really love, right? There's charts everywhere, right? You can get a
Yeah.
chart, but the way that our chart looks and the colors and the earnings and sales and all that data together is very, very important, not only for the clients, but for myself. I'm a user. I was a subscriber before I came on board, and I'll be a subscriber when they tap me on the shoulder maybe one day.
Right.
Thanks for playing. Um,
Here's some
but
parting gifts.
yeah, hopefully one of
Maybe
those parting gifts would be lifetime MarketSurge. That's gonna
membership,
be
yes.
yeah.
That's going to be your request.
That'll be
Um,
my one request.
mhm.
So yeah,
No,
I really want the chart to look exactly as best that it could, like the old version.
yeah, it's an important point because, again, at a certain point, you're really training your brain to kind of recognize similarities. The human mind is so great in terms of recognizing patterns. Sometimes we maybe force patterns on things that aren't there, but it's certainly, again, one of the features that can be flawed at times, but certainly a good thing to have. So yeah, the more you can kind of make things look similar so that when you're learning and you're going through a lot of charts, you start recognizing things. But I guess one thing is that you have available to you is you can make the chart look different. There's a lot of different options now in terms of, um, rather than being stuck with just the high low close as we have done for years and years and years, you have a lot of different options. So, what are some of the options, and are there any that you have found yourself kind of favoring yourself?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been here 15 years and I've probably answered 15,000 emails on why don't we have the candlesticks, or why don't we
Yeah.
have XYZ Fibonacci or
Hmm.
anchored VWAP?
Hmm.
And the kind of the standard answer was that, just Bill, the founder of IBD, Bill O'Neill, it just, he just liked this charts really clean. He just wanted fundamentals and a couple moving averages and an RS line, and that was that. And so we kind of that stayed close to the vest as far as that strategy. But it's out there. People ask for it all the time. So that was one of the number of reasons for the change to this new beta version, was that the flexibility that people constantly wanted. So now, if you hover your mouse over this icon called type, you click down, you can see IBD high low close bar. This is just the traditional one.
Hmm.
This is honestly what I prefer. I wouldn't probably change it other than to test the product, or if somebody asked to see it. But like, you can go to candles now, which was a common request. Candles, or oops, I clicked the wrong icon. Um, the I don't even know what the Hikeen Ashi does, but it's there. So there's a
Hmm.
lot of options: hollow candle or volume candle, that you can play with. And then you can scroll and zoom in or zoom out. So if I
Yeah.
scroll my wheel on my mouse, I can scroll in and out, that you never could do that before.
Or
So
you could hit
people,
Control plus, Control minus, and that
correct,
does the
yeah.
same thing, right?
So
So
you
you
could
can
you
really
could
kind of
do all
stretch
of
things
that
out.
that you couldn't do before.
Hmm.
Now, if you kind of get stuck, you start adding some indicators on there. It starts going bananas, and you're just like, okay, what do I do now? How do I get it back? There's a button up here called Reset to Default. That'll take you back to the original setup. Oops. Oh, good. It didn't do that. Sometimes it gets stuck halfway and drives me
Hmm.
crazy. But so now I'm back to the original part. And there's a lock down here too. So if you're like me, what I will do if I was using this is I would lock this on the traditional chart so that it doesn't change, it doesn't scroll, it doesn't zoom in and out by accident. So I click on this little lock, and that will prevent that from happening if you're kind of old school, for lack of a better term, and don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So the main thing is give you options. You
Hmm.
want that stuff? Great, it's there for you. If you're like, hey, I've been doing this for 54 years and I do not want the chart to change, just lock it, reset to default, lock it, and you're good to go. You won't have to worry about any of that.
Hmm. Now, some folks are kind of feeling like, looking at the weekly chart here, they're feeling like it's maybe a little bit more compressed than they're used to, and that might be the earnings and sales information on the bottom. Um,
Correct.
is
It's
is there
a
a way to kind of change that?
So we when we built this out of the box, one thing that Legacy has that Beta doesn't have just yet, anyways, is that standard fit versus best fit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's on its way. We had to build it because out of the box, the software did not have that. So it's being built and it's very close, so that we'll have that button where you can kind of fit the price action to the chart, if need be. But one of the newer things is we wanted to put the earnings across the bottom versus on the left-hand side. And I know a lot of people are used to it being on the left-hand side. And again, I think from an option standpoint, maybe we allow you to do that and go in there and just, you can say, hey, I want it on the left or I want it across the bottom. But across the bottom is more actionable, more so you can kind of see like what did the stock do based on that earnings report.
It lines it up with the, it kind of lines your fundamentals up with your technicals,
correct, and
which was kind of Bill's whole point, right?
That's right. That was kind of the old all the products that if you've ever seen any old charts, they always had the earnings and model books. I found some model books in the trash. They fell off a truck, some model books at William O'Neill. And they've got all the earnings and sales across the bottom, and it lines up with the stock action. So we wanted to bring that back, and you can see that down here. Now you can, and then we have the stamp here, so you could turn that on and off with the utilities bar here. By just sliding it over.
Yes.
So that give you more real estate if you need it.
And so for people that are saying it looks a little bit more compressed, that will probably kind of make that a little bit more similar to what you're used to in the Legacy.
Correct. And then you can, if it's too compressed and you need to really see that action, you can zoom in and out with the scroll bar. And then you also have a nice added feature we'd never had before, was the quarterly. Oops, it's locked. I can't slide. I was like, how come it's not sliding? You can see now I've got the next quarter earnings estimate for March and June and September and December. So if we have that data, for a lot of companies we do, you can now see what the next 4 quarterly earnings and sales estimates are going to be, which we didn't have before.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is, again, a good start. You can have the ability to do candles. I really like candles myself, just again, to kind of have that opening information. Where did you close in relation to that? But probably the biggest difference here is how many different technical indicators are available now. You kind of mentioned that, our founder for Investors Business Daily, Bill O'Neill, he kind of sometimes was like, I know a lot of people are asking for all these different things, but you have too many indicators and then it can confuse you. You're getting mixed signals because you have so many different indicators. One is telling you buy, the other is telling you sell, and then that can lead to confusion. So, but as you said, we have to kind of keep up with, what a lot of folks have available out there. And so you don't have to use these by any stretch. In fact, I don't think that I will ever use a quarter of these technical indicators, or even close. But there are some things that people have been asking for, and that we have found to have value. Sometimes certain things have maybe more value in certain markets, but you have a lot of options here. So any favorites that you've been using yourself?
Well, I'm a simple person, Justin. So I just like, simple moving averages. But I was playing with the moving average cross, which I thought was kind of interesting. So it'll signal when the moving averages are crossing over with its own moving average line. I kind of like that on the chart for half a minute. So I was playing with that. There's Bollinger bands, and there's, anchored VWAP, which everybody's asked for a million times.
Yeah, especially since we've had John Bollinger on the podcast. It would be nice. It's going to be great. Next time we invite him on, okay, we can throw your Bollinger bands on there for you.
Correct.
Or Brian Shannon with the anchored VWAP.
Yep.
Yeah. So
exactly.
That's going to be nice to do.
Here's the moving average cross. I could make it a favorite by clicking on the star. So now I have 2 favorites. If I click view details, it's going to allow me to add the study.
Hmm.
And there it is. This little light blue line is the moving average cross. So I can right click and I can edit the study, or I can delete it. And, I've got a 20, a 50, a 200, and I could just, mess around, change that. Maybe I want to do the 8, and I can change the color, etc. Oops, I don't know if I want to change it there because it wouldn't contrast with that one, but
Hmm.
um, you get the idea. So you can mess around there, and if it gets too busy, reset to default, or you can just click on there and delete the study if you want.
Right, and I've found particularly useful when you go to tech indicators, you can look at your active indicators, and you can kind of just flip the switch. You can say, oh, here's my active indicators. You have 5 right now, and you can say, oh, you know what? I'm going to take this off. I'm going to take this off. So if you do need to clean it up, rather than just go into the default, you can just kind of, oh, you know what? I don't. For this, I don't need these, or right now I don't need these. I want to just focus on these particular indicators. So yeah, and you can have your favorites, as you said. So that's does make it a little bit easier to use in that regard. Certainly for me, again, I do like Bollinger Bands, and I do like Keltner channels. Just some very simple. It's all based on price, right? But in a
Yeah.
very methodical way. So some of those are useful. I do want to play around more with the anchored VWAP, just because again I really respect Brian Shannon and what he does. MACDs are something I find useful at times. So yeah, there's a lot of things to kind of play around with here. Um, so that's going to be kind of fun to just
It's
kind of go
quite a
through the
rabbit
stuff.
hole if you're
Right,
interested.
yes,
You
exactly.
can
Yeah, so be
really,
careful, be careful.
yeah.
So okay. So a lot of stuff on the technical indicators. Let's talk a little bit about pattern rec.
So we've got pattern rec. You can turn it on and off. You can slide it with this button right here if you want it on, if you want it off. And it's pretty much the exact same thing that you would find in Legacy. You can see it's drawn this cup on ESE. You get the shaded areas, the stop loss zone, the buy zone, the green target 20, 25%, or in this case, stock goes up a lot in 3 weeks or less, you get the power from pivot. So the pattern rec is exactly the same, but now it can be new and improved. So I think publicly Mike has said, at least I hope so, because I'm going to let the cat out of the bag, that he's working on a pattern rec project
Hmm.
to make changes, little subtle changes. I don't think there's going to be massive changes, but I think one thing he was talking about, like I can't remember the stock on IBD Live, but it had made like the minorest minor high, which negated the whole flat base. And he wants to, if it makes just a minor high for a day and then comes back
Right.
into the base,
Yeah.
you should kind of ignore that. So there's little things like that on the logic side that Mike will um, build in, and we'll have a semi new, for lack of a better term, pattern recognition algorithm,
Hmm.
that can go on these charts in
Yeah.
the near to intermediate term future.
A lot of work was again that because Mike was the original creator of pattern recognition for the legacy version of MarketSurge, and so a lot of what he was doing was kind of like just, I mean, in some ways reinventing the wheel, kind of reapplying the rules, but also there were things that he had on his wish list to do and never got around to it. So yeah, like that minor high was one where visually you could see, well, yeah, that still should count. But when you're programming something, it's very black and white, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, it either is or it isn't. And if you put in logic, and it's very tricky because you change a little thing here and it can break a bunch of things elsewhere. So a lot of testing, a lot of debugging and looking at things. Sometimes it's like, well, why didn't I mean, like right now I know why isn't it catching these double bottoms that it was catching before? And so you have to go back into the logic and say, okay, let's figure this out. And I'm seeing a lot of questions that we're going to be throwing your way, Scott, from folks that are again watching us live on YouTube. So
Where are you
um,
seeing these questions? Am I not privy to them?
um, I have YouTube open. And
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm watching the YouTube
Okay,
on the
cool.
side here, and seeing the questions.
I thought
I
maybe
think
it
they
was
disappear. I think they disappear once it's over. But so let's move on to the annotation tool,
okay.
and I think we're going to start throwing some of these questions to you, specifically on the annotation tool. So anything different here?
Yes, very different, much more thorough. The annotation tool in the legacy version, I think, was built in 1998, and I'm only partially exaggerating because
Right.
Daily Graphs went online in roughly 1998 and had the annotation tool. When we redid Daily Graphs into MarketSurge in 2010, we just basically cut and paste the same annotation tool. So it didn't change in the MarketSmith rebrand. When we moved it to MarketSurge, it was the same. So this is a long time in coming, this annotation tool, and you can just click on this icon, markup tools. It's floating over here. You can undock it, and it's, I don't know why you would use a heart. I don't know. I have to admit, I don't know or understand a lot of these. But they're there for you. So there's Elliott Wave, there's the measurement tool, which is kind of cool. A lot of people ask, I would like to know how much did the stock move when it went from 30 to 147,
Mhm.
things like that. So it's much more thorough annotation tool than we had previously.
Mhm. Now, one of the questions that was coming up, someone was asking about, all these features that are becoming available. These are available on the desktop. Will these be available on the iPhone app as well, or iPad?
Uh,
A lot of people use the iPad as well.
yeah. So the short answer is no, not yet.
Hmm.
We're trying to get this right, correct. Let's get the desktop version working. I don't want to use the word perfectly because it is software. You get the idea. There, even the
It's always going to be tweaked, right?
correct. I mean, even Microsoft Windows is, one of the greatest companies in the history of companies. They can have bugs. So perfectly is not the right word, but it needs to work within really, really strongly towards perfect before we, pivot to the mobile. So
Right.
the mobile still works. It'll look the same though. It's not going to have any of the annotation tools or any of the excuse me, technical indicators that the desktop version will have, at least not yet. And, to be totally honest, probably not in the foreseeable future. Um, I know a lot of people use the mobile. They love the iPad version. Um, you know how I know is because I get it. We get the emails and the feedback about it. So I get it. A lot of you are using that, but let's get this right, and then we'll pivot to that later on
Mhm.
down the road.
Yeah. Perfect. Now, I know a lot of people will use the annotation tool, drawing trend lines, for instance, or channel lines, as alerts. Is that still something that's available?
It is, yeah. And actually that's one of my favorites. If you go to alerts here, I go to manage alerts. You can see, like, if for NVIDIA, I have a line alert on the D for daily chart.
Hmm.
SCCO, a line alert on the daily chart. So you can draw them. Um, if I can learn to type. So if I right click inside here and choose trend line, I can just draw a trend line across, like here if I wanted, and right click it. And I apologize if it's weird. It's a weird bug just for me. I was trying to troubleshoot this. Uh, I
The,
should
the
have
the the
told,
famous words cannot replicate, right?
I know, but it's only for me. It's
Yeah.
not for clients. It's not for anybody on the MarketSurge coaching team. It's just for me that I should be able to left click this again, get that line to stay, and then boom, line alert, set alert, and it should have a dashed line there. So you can see the alert was created. The alert is there, but it's not showing for me,
Right.
even though I do have the alerts turned
Yeah.
on. So
So
yes,
for
trend
most
line
people,
alerts still work.
that does show up. It's just
Yes.
Scott, for some reason, is
I don't
defective.
know if it's my browser, and again, this is part of being
Right.
beta, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the browser or something. I cleared my cache, I cleared the history, I signed in and signed out, and I feel like a
Hmm.
customer. So
Right.
I
Exactly.
know how you guys feel sometimes when we tell you, please clear your cache and clear your cookies and do all that, and you're just like,
Have
I
you
did all that,
restarted
and
your
it's
computer?
still not working. So I feel for you. We've been there before personally, and I'm there now. I don't know. I can't
Mhm,
explain why this doesn't work like it should, but
mhm.
it's the
For
good
you.
news is
Right.
it's only not working for me, which
Yeah.
if I could choose, I would choose me versus the clients every time because that's
Yeah.
much easier than answering 500 emails.
Right. So, one of the folks is asking about, do you still have the ability to do moving average lines on the RS line? That was something that Mike was very big on. Is that still possible?
Yes, yep. So if I right click on the moving average line and choose edit study, I'm sorry, edit
The RS
settings.
line? Hmm.
Yeah, so I've got the custom RS line set to the S&P 500. I could change that
Okay.
if I wanted. I
Oh,
probably
that's
wouldn't.
easy. Yeah.
And then I could just choose, and I don't know Mike's settings off the top of my head, but if you
Hmm.
a lot of you guys do, let's choose a moving average. Let's make it nice and visible. That way I can
Hmm.
uh, see it, apply changes, and I don't know if maybe I didn't choose nice and visible because it's not there. Um,
But that is the idea behind it. That's
correct,
where it would be. So again,
correct.
we're still working on some of the things, but
This
yes.
should work. This should work
Hmm.
and does. So yeah, it would show, cross over on the moving averages.
Hmm.
I must be doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm 0 for 2 with your question.
We're going to train you on using the product.
I feel like
Put you through a training.
I'm doing it right. Yeah.
Uh, um,
Oh, you know what I'm doing wrong? I see it. Oh, the line color is blue. The moving average is orange. That should be right. I thought maybe I had the same color,
uh-huh.
and so that was messing it up.
Well, we can move on this
It
one.
might be just again a bug, but it does
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
Again, for everybody but me.
Right. Yeah. Is this your way of trying to get me to work and
I'm not.
show
Do
mine?
you have them on yours? I'm not sure that's. I wonder if it's related to the trend line alert bug that I'm encountering. Huh? Yeah.
Hmm. You know what? Let's see. I'm gonna just try it on mine real quick and see if it
But it should work
shows up.
exactly the same like you guys have in Legacy.
Yeah, I'll have to play around with it and test it on mine. Okay, a couple more things. The idea generation. I mean, one of my favorite things in terms of getting ideas is going to the open stock ideas. Um, any changes there?
We have changed it a little bit. The idea is the same. The lists are in there, the breaking out today, the William O'Neill screen, etc. But instead of like a daily routine and a weekly routine, we just got rid of that and went with the favorites, which I like better. So now you can add lists or screens or reports to your favorites. So that way, like on a Sunday, I just go straight to the favorites. I can run my William O'Neill screen. I can run my 3-month leaders screen for 3-month RS, and it makes it real easy. I don't have to search all over for them. So
Hmm.
it has, it's definitely a lot cleaner. You've got the breaking out today, the near pivot. If you scroll down, you've got a lot of the most commonly used reports and screens, RS line, blue dot, the ants list. So we do give you some that you probably want to use, but the favorites part is okay. So add to favorites. I go into reports. If I want let's go to the Mark Minervini 5-month wide, for example, and now that's in my favorite. So I don't have to
Hmm.
scroll down and look for it everywhere. Boom, there it is, right, ready to run. and it functions the same way. I click on William O'Neill, and the stocks that showed up will show up down below in the list panel, same way Legacy did.
Yeah, and I also want to just add one of the things that is very convenient is, for a long time I had to select sometimes, a lot of times I was putting lists together and I would call it my screen bin. So I'd run a few different screens, I'd put them in a single list, and that way duplicates would be removed automatically. But sometimes some of my screens were fairly large, 200, 300 names. So now instead of having to scroll down to select everything, there's a simple checkbox, right at the top there. So for instance, if you wanted to do all 76 items in the William J. O'Neill screen, you could just on that list, instead of going and scrolling through all the list, you could just do that top checkbox, and that'll select them all for you, which is a nice feature. I'm also going to give you a helpful hint here, Scott. This is actually from one of our YouTube comments.
They're
if you
tell
go
me
ahead,
how to use it.
yeah, go to the right click, edit on your relative
On my-
strength.
On my RS line?
You were almost there. Moving average on RS line, you have to check that box.
Bingo.
And
That's
there
right.
it is.
I forgot
You apply
about
changes,
that.
apply changes, and that's gonna
See,
put it on there.
one of the great things about me on this project, Justin, is I am like the typical user, and I'm in that older demographic too. So a lot of times the designers, they're all these young kids in their 20s that know computers left and right, and I always would be like, I don't understand all of that. I just want simple. So
Yes.
like this is a perfect example of like, why do I need to check that box? It's if I'm in the custom RS line box, I'm editing the custom RS line box. Wouldn't that make sense that I want the moving average on the RS line? But in fairness to them, I should have remembered that
Yeah.
was there.
Well, and you have the flexibility because a lot of times when I'm doing the podcast, I turn those off because, Mike will want them on and, some people will want them on, but a lot of folks, it's too many lines and they're like, you got to clean this up for me. And so that does make it a little bit easier to just, click it off.
There it is. There's a 21 moving average, 21-day moving average on the RS line right there in orange.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, I think that pretty much covers, again, a lot of the stuff that's going on. So again, we just wanted to give an overview for folks, but people definitely want to hear from you in terms of your ideas on the market. So if you don't mind, maybe starting with the NASDAQ composite, and I'll be looking at some of the comments too to see if there's more that we can throw your way. But I want to kind of cover the NASDAQ here because, gosh, it's been so interesting how different the NASDAQ has been playing out in terms of this recent sideways trend that the NASDAQ has been in. And then you look at something like RSP for contrast, which is RSP, of course, is the equal weighted S&P 500. So again, it's not like it's a bad market. It's not like all stocks are bad. It's just it really depends on where you're at. And so while there have been a lot of struggles in terms of certainly the older names that have worked in 2023, 2024, and especially the Magnificent Seven, as they were so dubbed, man, it's been really challenging for those. I mean, even Google, Alphabet, that was holding up so well for a long time, even that started giving up its 50-day moving average line recently. So going back to the NASDAQ, when you're seeing kind of this divergence, NASDAQ is doing one thing, RSP is doing something completely different, making new highs. Small caps finally participating. International stocks finally, I think I saw something that the IBD, not the IBD 50, the Europe 50, like made a new high or something, like a new high for the first time since May 2000. So what do you make of the market right now?
It's tricky because you do have this divergence that's glaring where the NASDAQ topped on, let me track price this, what was that, the 29th of October?
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah,
I
and
topped on the 22nd of September. So
I topped in 2000, so at least you lasted that long. Um, um, it's so you have a divergence, and some leaders like Robinhood and Palantir, they look broken. You know, they're down
yeah.
30-40% off their highs. So it reminds me very much, like, I've been every year I reread reminiscences of a stock operator, just because I want that I just love, there's so many gems and quotes in there, and it just, and the thing that it reminds me of now is that there's a thing in there where he says, the leaders have run their race.
Hmm.
And we get so fixated on the indexes that sometimes we lose sight of. It looks like not all leaders, but Palantir looks to me like that leader has run its race. Um, I don't know. It's 35% off of the 52-week high. Um, Robinhood is 51% off its 52-week high. And so if you were just staring at the indexes and you owned these two stocks, they quietly melted away on you.
Yeah.
Whereas you really have to focus on each individual stock that you own. You just have to let it do its thing and tell its story and read the tea leaves on those. And regardless of the, let's say the Nasdaq was going up every day, but you bought XYZ at 100, and then it went 99, 98, 97, 96. It wouldn't matter that the Nasdaq went up 1% every day. Around 95 or 94, the rule is the rule. You would want to get out of that stock,
Hmm.
regardless of what the index is doing. So we do use the indexes, but you have to also, I think, you put a lot more weight in each individual stock, what it's doing, and in the story it's telling.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's what's going to matter for your portfolio. Unless you put all your money in, one of these indexes, an ETF, I should say, that tracks the indexes, since you can't buy an index. But unless you are doing that, you really have to focus on your individual stocks that make up your portfolio, how you're doing that, what your makeup is, and that means position size and all the other parts of portfolio management that we talk about all the time. And at a certain point, um, unless again you're purchasing an ETF that is covering an index and putting 100% in there, what the index is doing isn't always relevant. I mean, it can be relevant in terms of the trend of what most stocks are doing, but like what we're seeing right now, the Nasdaq is not indicative of what most stocks are doing. Even on the S&P 500, or if you look at IWB, which is the Russell 1000, so
B as
expanding
in
that five,
boy, or
yeah,
V as in Victor?
yeah, B as in boy. So yeah, that's the iShares Russell 1000, which is the top 1,000 companies instead of the S&P 500. And then you compare that to EQAL, and again, this has been in pretty much a sideways trend, whereas EQAL, I mean, this is your equal weighted, so your average, you know, Russell 1000 stock is doing just fine, and making new highs, but the market cap weighted looks just very, very different.
Well, they've gone a long way. I mean, the
Yeah.
Googles of the world, the Nvidias of the world, they've made incredible moves. If you want to say that the bull market started in 2009, or you want to say that it started in 2022, because that was a pretty good bear market for the average stock, not the indexes. They've just gone a long way, and Google is very interesting. They issued that 100-year bond, handful of days ago, and I was reading the last. I don't know if it was the last company, but in 2000, Motorola issued a 100-year bond, um, and I just couldn't help myself. There's so many parallels between the internet bubble and the AI. I don't know if it's a bubble or not, and I don't care if it is or not. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter. It's just a label, kind of like a bull market or bear market. It's just a label.
Hmm.
Um, but I find it very interesting that Google would issue a 100-year bond, and the last time that that they did that. For if you're a history buff or if you've been around as long as I have, and even Justin, Motorola they were the cat's pajamas in 2000, right? They were
Oh
one of the
yeah,
great stocks, great companies.
along with those other stocks we don't talk about anymore, like
Correct. They've
Nokia and
kind of
Ericsson
lost their
and
way,
you
and
know
so I just
research in motion.
I just
The
found that
graveyard
parallel
is
very
full of them, right?
interesting. Yeah. And I don't want to go on and say Google's the next Motorola because it sounds crazy at this point but the world changes, stocks change, companies change. I cannot believe like Thomson Reuters, is it
Oh yeah,
TRI or
TRI, right?
yeah, I mean, you could just be moving swimmingly along. You've owned Thomson Reuters since, 2010, and you're just, everything is all fine and dandy. And then one day or 1 month or 1 week or something, the game is over. It's changed. Something changed there.
Hmm.
And that stock has changed. And it seems like it's changed obviously for the worse. Like, you've given back 10 years of gains in 5 months, and so I think things change is that's how you make money, is change. You don't want to be afraid of change. That's how you make money. That's how you buy a stock at 40 that goes to 120, or that's how you buy Bloom Energy at 30 and it goes to 140 because change. For the
Yeah.
longest time, I remember when Bloom Energy went public, I was all fired up about it. I thought it was the greatest story ever. The guy but it just was a dud. It did
Hmm.
nothing. It went between 20 and 5 over and over and over and would have just driven you crazy. But guess what? Something changed around 30, and that allowed the stock to really, really run. So you don't want to be afraid of the change. You just have to be kind of aware and on guard and looking for that type of change.
No, absolutely. So speaking of which, there's always kind of this thought of, when you're getting rotation, how, certain things are like due. And for the longest time, you've kind of joked about this on IBD Live over the last few years, like international. There's been so many times where it's like, well, gosh, international, it's due. It's gotta eventually have its time in the sun again. And it seems like that's finally happening, maybe. A lot of outperformance versus the S&P 500 recently. Now, again, you can see this long downtrend of that relative strength line, but a nice little turn up lately.
Yeah, I apologize. I should know the kid's name. He's a kid. He's probably 25, but I call him a kid. That follow on Twitter was saying that EEM's breaking out of an 18-year base. And, I quietly laughed because you could have said the same thing, here it's breaking out of
Right.
a 15-year base. And and there's a reason it's in an 18-year base.
Yeah.
So
Heck, you could have done the 3-year base that it was breaking out of.
there's been a lot of chances for this to go up and work, but it
Mhm.
seems to be working and holding this time. So there's, it's, oops, I don't know how I did that. Bear with me, but it's, inches off of 52-week highs, and it's up, 10% in 31 days out of this pivot, which might not seem that exciting, but that's coming out of an ETF. You can
Right.
position size a little stronger in an ETF than you would a normal stock, I think, from a risk management perspective. So
Hmm.
it's held up pretty well. It's the EWZ has done pretty good, and
And
um,
EWZ is Brazil.
Brazil, and
Mhm.
and some esoteric markets like Peru and Chile, and
Oh yeah,
I
Peru
don't know.
was just phenomenal
Yeah,
lately, it seems
they've
like.
gone really well. So
Hmm.
maybe there's something to be said for that in the world. The nice thing is if the U.S. goes into a bear market, there are so many options, even as a U.S. investor, with these ETFs and a lot of brokerage platforms. You can buy Japanese stocks if you want. Japan's done very well recently. So, maybe Jim Cramer is right. There's a bull market somewhere, whereas the old days, when I say old day, I mean like 20 years ago or something, 25 years ago,
Is that the old days now?
it is now, unfortunately. But
Right.
if the U.S. went into a bear market, it would seem unlikely that the rest of the world would do great.
Yeah.
And that's probably the case a little bit. Like if the U.S. went into a really bad market, it's unlikely this would um, hold up, but maybe relative it would do better. Now, I don't eat relative returns. Relative returns don't put food on the table, right? I'm in the
Yeah.
absolute business,
Mm-hmm.
absolute returns.
And don't
So
get me wrong, relative returns are great when you're a mutual fund, right? And all you have to do
sure.
is beat your benchmark, and
Yeah.
you get your bonus. And it doesn't matter if you're down 10% as long as the S&P 500 was down 11%. You're
Yeah,
golden.
you've
So
done really well. But if you're,
yeah,
I try. I don't want to go down. I mean, look, you're always going to be in a drawdown. It's kind of hard not to be, but
right.
I don't want to go down. I don't want to go down 25% and Nasdaq go down 30 and pat myself on the back. I'm not going to
Hmm.
do that.
Hmm.
I did something wrong if that were to happen. I
Hmm.
should now if I go down 8% and the Nasdaq went down 25, then I can live with that. So
Hmm.
it's all in that kind of vein. But yeah, they're holding up really well, and we'll have to wait and see. It's the dynamics of the overall market are very. There's so many cross currents, and the world is so small now that every
Yeah.
little thing, everything. When I first
Hmm.
started, I couldn't tell you what was going on in with the Japanese yen or there's 12 aircraft carriers in the Gulf of off the coast of Saudi Arabia. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know any of
You
that.
weren't paying attention to the yen carry trade?
No, I didn't know any of that. And
Right.
I sometimes wonder if I could just I would like to go back to that because
Ignorance is bliss.
yeah, it doesn't do me any good. So, it's like again back to the reminiscences of a stock operator story. The man, or this might be from Jesse Livermore's book. I can't remember. I get them confused sometimes. But the man, he call him the man in the mountains. He was a guy in California that lived in the mountains, and he'd come down to the brokerage firm, every other quarter, or
Hmm.
every 6 or 9 months, and buy stocks, and then he'd go back to the mountains, and how great he did because he was able to ignore the noise.
I think
So
that was Nicholas Darvis, maybe.
no, it's
No?
definitely
Okay.
in one of Jesse's books.
Okay. Okay.
The man, I call him the man from the mountains. I just read it. That's the only
Yeah.
reason I have as much
And
confidence
maybe
as I
I'm
do.
thinking Darvis because again, like, he was
He
making
was
his
very
trades
much like that.
3 days late, or whatever,
Exactly.
off of Telegram, basically
Yeah.
getting prices off Telegram while he was, traveling the world and everything. But
Correct. I sometimes wonder the access to all this information. I'm not sure it's made us better investors. It's very difficult. Sometimes you feel glad that you're able to react so quick, but sometimes I think it hurts you. So
Yeah. I want to cover a few charts, and I should mention that a lot of times this stuff we do kind of feel like it's in the chart. Like to your point on TRI, Thomson Reuters, while the Anthropic news really just tanked that stock in a big way. I mean, what was it down? It was down like 20% or something like that when that Anthropic news came out, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, it was already in
yeah.
a major downtrend.
It
It's like
was
it was
down
already a do not touch
16%,
stock.
but look at this bar right here on August 6th of 2025. Breaks 10%, breaks through the 50-day, closes at the low. I mean, that's a nasty bar, and
Yeah.
none of us using the system we have are going to be in something like this if you're
Mhm.
following the rules.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you that if you were in it and it was acting good, and all of a sudden out of nowhere you get this signal here, and it's like, that's a bad bar. What's going on there?
Mhm.
And maybe you don't react that day. I mean, I know I would if I happened to be in that stock, but the fact that it cannot rally at all after that bad break is really, then it breaks again poorly, then it breaks again. So you get signals if you're willing to listen to them, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a couple other stocks that you had kind of on your radar, and again, we spent a little bit more time on the market because it's been really tricky for a lot of individual stocks. And I mean, you shared at the
How
beginning
long
that,
is this show? I guess I don't even know.
yeah, well, we're over time.
Really?
Yeah, this is the After Dark special.
Okay.
Mike, our producer, is already like,
Well,
yeah.
he lives on the
um,
East Coast, so he probably
Yeah, so
wants to go
he
home.
wants to, yeah, he wants to eat dinner or something
It's
like
only
that,
3 o'clock
something
for
crazy.
us, so we've
You
got
know, so,
time.
yeah. um, exactly the words he wants to hear. Let's take a look at AROC, AROC. This is one that you mentioned in terms of one. I think this is one that maybe you brought up on IBD Live the other day. So I mean, there are stocks out there. This has a strong relative strength rating, 87. Just so happens that that's what your average leader had before making its big run. I think that was the average in Bill's studies. It's got some decent fundamentals, some really strong earnings and sales
Yeah,
numbers.
very good. Look at I mean,
Um,
in the oil and gas machinery equipment, look at the earnings and sales across the bottom. So,
mhm.
it's not
And
all
it's
that dynamic so far
mhm.
anyways, but at least it's acting in the right direction.
Now it is in oil and gas, and I think we've talked a little bit about, gosh, oil and gas, it's tough, especially if it's tied to the price. But I mean, sometimes when you're in the machinery equipment or the field services, it's kind of like, oh, can they, is this like a picks and shovels play to you?
Yeah, I would rather buy this than say a driller or
Hmm.
something. But although, Valaris, which is a driller that broke out for half a minute and then got bought out by Transocean.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a powerful signal that the industry is giving. If the Transocean rig bought this company out, and look at the stock, you know, kept going and going and going. I don't know what they're. Maybe they think somebody else might come and bid and raise a bid or something. But it's you can make money in oil and gas. It's got a bad rap because technology's been so good for so long. But
Yeah.
there was a period, what I don't remember what year it was, but like the Tidewater and Weatherford, they were great stocks. Maybe it was 21 or something, 2021,
Well, yeah, 20 what
2022.
because in 2021 you had the growth stocks kind of topping, the ARK Invest topped in February of 2021, and then you had these going in 2022 when we were in a very severe bear market. I shouldn't say severe, a punishing. It was long, right? So yeah, Weatherford, Tidewater. There was a
Yeah,
whole
look
host
at
of
Weatherford.
these.
It, went from 20 to 120. Looks like
Yeah.
a tech stock. So
Hmm.
it's yeah. I mean, I guess the main message I would say is I don't think you want to ever say, "Oh, I'd never buy that group." Maybe biotech is the only group that I can say with confidence that um, I don't want to say I swear it off, but I really think about position size. In the biotech here, I happen to own a biotech stock currently, and
Right.
its position size is so key to that group because of the overnight risks seem larger than they are for other stocks. There
Yeah.
are overnight risks in all stocks, but they seem larger in
It,
that
it's
one.
almost like you can have an earnings report come out of the blue and
Without knowing it, right?
without
Yeah,
knowing. Yeah, right.
yeah,
So between FDA approvals and clinical trials, and God forbid something happens, that causes a death or something like that. But hey, Scott, really appreciate you sharing what you've been working on. Can't wait for more and more people to kind of kick the tires on this and see what the new MarketSurge has to offer. So thanks a lot for being on the show and sharing the information.
thank you. And I just like for those listening that are subscribers, appreciate your feedback. We get lots of emails and phone calls, and we encourage it. One last thing, real quick, Justin. You can give feedback to the design team with this button right here, report an issue. So if there's something you like, dislike, you want the earnings, and I'm gonna give you kind of like the earnings and sales across the bottom, I think they're not bold enough. Like I want that to be bolder. Like I'm struggling to see those numbers.
Yeah.
So like if I was a subscriber, that'd be the first thing is I love this across the bottom, but I need to read it. My eyes are older. I want that to be bolder. So you can, I'm not saying you have to give that feedback, but you get the idea. You can give feedback right here with this report and issue button, or you can email us like you have been. And we appreciate your patience on this. Believe me, I know it doesn't work perfectly. It's a work in progress. There's a reason that we use the word beta, because we wanted to send that message that it's in beta. It's being worked on, and slowly but surely we will get it there. So, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks for the time
Awesome.
today.
Yeah. And then you can go ahead and stop the share if you don't mind.
Oh, okay. All right. Have
Yeah.
a good evening.
Awesome. You too. And that's going to wrap it up for us this week. And thank you so much for watching, and hope this was informative for you. Next week, we're going to have Greg Morton back on the show. We had him on not too long ago, but he's got some new information to share. He, of course, was a longtime IBD meetup leader, been following the IBD methodology for a long time, and he's got his own way of doing things, including his, what he shared with his market analysis. So we're going to be checking in with him on this tricky market and get some thoughts from him. So hope you join us for that. We're going to be live at 5 p.m. Eastern time, as we typically are, and we'll see you then. Take care, everybody.